This is the culture.
Welcome back to the Cinema Wave podcast. I'm your host today, Vinny Albano, and today we are talking about Avatar, The Last Airbender, the Netflix adaptation. I am joined by my co-host, Mark Iacobino.
Hi, everyone.
And Mikey Pennison.
Hello, everybody.
And yeah, we're just going to jump right into it, not waste any more time. This Netflix adaptation is a controversial adaptation at the least. Adapting such a acclaimed and beloved show, an animated show, and saying, hey, we're going to make a Netflix adaptation has gone terribly in the past. So obviously people were scared, and it's been hit with some mixed results. Let's just go around maybe with like overall thoughts. Mark, do you want to start it off? And
I got some things to say.
Keeping it spoiler free for now.
Okay, we'll keep it spoiler free for now. All right. Well, first, I just want to say, we formed this group here at Cinema Wave to, uplift the medium of animation. It's legitimate on its own. It doesn't need to be adapted to make it more, a better version of a show. And I think this is just like the ultimate slap in the face, because the cartoon is a masterpiece, and this would never happen with a live action show. Breaking Bad, they would never say, oh, we need to do an animated remake of this in 20 years to make it better, or a new version of it. Like, it just wouldn't happen. So seeing it done to an animated show that is widely considered and is, I think, a top 15 rated show on IMDb, that needing to be adapted is just it's insulting to the medium, I think, personally. So we formed this group because we love animation and it should stand on its own. So coming into this, I think we were all kind of skeptical, and having seen it, I think the skepticism was well earned. There's a lot of issues with this show: the writing, the acting, the pacing is pretty abysmal. These 8-episode shows that these streaming services are doing, they can't figure out how to pace a story out over a season. It seems like Disney Plus can't do it, and now we kind of get the same thing here with Avatar on Netflix. There are some things to like. I mean, the FX are stunning in some instances. The shots of the cities, the effects of the bending is really cool. I really enjoy the martial arts that is kind of put into the bending and the fight scenes. And there are some things that they add with the Fire Nation that I think are pretty interesting. So, I mean, there are things that you can say you liked, but I think as a whole package, you're not going to walk away from this and be like, I need season 2 now. Like, come on, let's do it. So
yeah,
those are my overall thoughts. How about you, Mikey?
Oh, man. Yeah, I agree. I feel the exact same way. And I feel like it's a really good point that you mentioned, how much of a disrespect it is. Considering how incredible the animation is. I remember I went back and I watched a few of the animated episodes before watching this, just to kind of refresh myself a little bit, and just to see that, and to see how wholesome it is at times, and like they're able to just easily do things and tell certain stories, and it's really beautiful. And then yes, to come to this, it is definitely not the same. I personally didn't really go into this with too much high of hopes. That the movie that we got was not good in the past, and so it made me kind of question just how good this one really could be. I definitely did not. I didn't like it. There were a few moments that I definitely appreciated. Not that I maybe liked, but I appreciated that. All right. There were a few character arcs that I thought were kind of done okay, for the most part. I definitely agree as well. Visually, I think that there were times where I was like, okay, that looks nice. Like, this is not a spoiler at all, but like even like the times we saw Appa, 50-50 with that. But like, certain things like that, the world building with this, I felt like it fit for, I guess, what they were doing, and maybe a certain even audience, I could guess you could say. But again, it just didn't work for me. There were definitely moments later on, I'd say, that I enjoyed more than the earlier half of the season. But I'll kind of leave it at that for now.
Yeah,
You know,
and like you said, like they've tried this adaptation before with the movie and it failed, and like they still like went back in, like, no, we can do it. It's like it's so disrespectful to the original show. Like, no, we can do it better, or we're gonna legitimize it by making it live action. I mean, Netflix, I'm sure there's a money aspect. Like, I know it's a cash grab, it's a big name, but I think just from a creative aspect, it's really just terrible to do. So, Vinny, you go.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Avatar is a show that personally changed my life. It is in my top 5 shows of all time.
Mhm.
I love Avatar.
Mhm.
Avatar is genuinely not only one of the greatest animated shows of all time, but it is one of the best just shows of all time. Like you mentioned, it's one of the highest rated shows on IMDb. Mikey, like you mentioned, there is such great examples in Avatar that I think almost no other show does, where you're taking very wholesome moments, very serious moments, very subtle storytelling, and it's all put in this, TBY7 young child like show for quote unquote for children. But it's done incredibly well, and seeing this adaptation, it was all right. It's not as bad as something like Marvel's Iron Fist, where it was such a chore to get through to the point where I just couldn't get past episode 4.
Mhm.
But it was a bit of a chore to get through.
There
for
were
me.
moments.
Yeah.
There were definitely moments.
Because there's some good aspects, like you mentioned. You have the visuals are so much better than 2010's live adaptation, and they're definitely trying to be more faithful, which I appreciate. The bending looks good. Some of the choreography in some of these fights are great, and
Really
we'll talk
cool.
about more in detail with that later on. And there's some great set pieces, and I do appreciate that they are being more faithful within costume design and within production design and within their performances, and just the overall vibe of the show and the main characters. I feel like they were being very faithful and nice, and I appreciated that. However, overall, they're squeezing all of these different plot lines and subtle character moments in the animated show, and just all of this is just getting watered down and watered down, and there's some really unnecessary changes that I think, and overall I just don't think this show is well written.
Yeah.
And because of that, I can't say this is a good adaptation, despite it having some positive aspects.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never justifies itself. Like, it never justifies why it was made, because anything it adds only detracts from the source material. Anything it tries new that it doesn't stay faithful to the animation, it doesn't make the story better. It only makes it less nuanced. The characters are watered down, like you said. It just feels like this show never justifies why it had to be made. And I think, again, that just, it comes down to writing, pacing. Like you said, I think they jam like 4 huge world building plot lines in the first season into that one episode in Omashu, and it's just like, what were like, you should like, I would rather you just cut like 2 of the plot lines and just focus on one and make it like really solid. But they're just like, no, we need this, we need that, and we're just gonna put it all together, and none of them are gonna make any sense together. So yes.
I really quick before we really get into it, just because I kind of had this question before, and I kind of want to just ask it now, because I feel like we've kind of already answered this question. But I was gonna ask, do you guys think that it's possible at this point to make a successful live action Avatar, even if like they like like took their time with each episode the same way that the animated series kind of took their time and like really like let you breathe with the episodes, do you think that it could be successful? Or now that you've kind of seen this, do you guys think that it just probably isn't possible?
I think it's possible, yes, but with just the modern landscape of Hollywood and streaming services, I don't think it's possible. Because, we have here an 8-episode show that, although it is about 8 hours collectively, because each episode kind of ranges between 45 minutes and an hour. So it is a lot of time. However, just with that structure, and if they keep that structure, it's hard to start pacing things correctly. And I know you mentioned this, Mark, like the pacing in this is just like so bizarre. And yeah, I don't know what they were trying to do. It's just very, I think it's hard to take something like book 1 of Avatar that was about 20 episodes, 20 minutes, and roughly you get the same collective runtime, but the episodes are drastically structured differently.
Right.
So, and they were trying to do something different. It's going to be really hard, I feel, moving on in this review, to not compare the two, but also compare the two, because I've seen a lot of criticisms online where it's like, okay, but they were trying to do something different, and maybe you should approve of that difference. At the end of the day, I do think it is possible to do a correct Avatar live action adaptation, but I feel like just in the modern landscape of things, Hollywood, Netflix, they're just not going to allow that to really flourish in the way that it should,
Yeah, I think, like you said, I mean, it's hard when you have 20 episodes and each has like a 3-act structure within that, and then trying to, even though it's the same runtime, you have little mini 3-arc episodes, and it's difficult to condense that into 8 episodes that are 3 acts. So it is hard to kind of make that conversion. So I think, it is possible, but I think it would have to be like 12 to 16 episodes, and I don't know what studio would have the budget to do what they did visually for that many episodes. It would be such a massive undertaking. So I would agree. I don't know if it's possible with the way they do things today. I think the animation was animated for a reason. Like, that was the perfect medium to tell this story. And yeah, just piggybacking off what you said, we are gonna be making comparisons between the live action and the animation, but only when it concerns how the show builds its world and its characters, because there's some changes that they make that I'm like, oh, okay, I see what they're trying to do, but there's some changes they make that completely detract from the original message of the show or the original world building of the show, and I think we'll definitely dive into that. So I would agree, if they were going to make changes, they should have just done a lot of things different and just forged their own path instead of like nitpicking things. So yeah, that's my long answer.
Do you I think we should move into spoilers, because I desperately want to talk about details.
Sure.
Do you guys have anything non-spoiler that you want to cover before?
The animated show movies are coming out, and we'll support them when they come out. So Team Avatar, the Zuko movie, the Earthbending Avatar TV series. Yeah. When those come out.
Totally agree. And they have the original showrunners, which in this live action adaptation, they were on the show as the main showrunners, however left due to quote unquote creative differences. Whatever that entails, obviously, but I can understand it from seeing the final product of this.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going into spoilers for the audiences that are watching. That was our brief overall thoughts on Avatar: The Last Airbender live action Netflix adaptation. Let's go into the nitty gritty of things. Let's go into spoilers. All right, let's start off.
Come on, give it to me, Vinny.
There's changes. Yeah. A lot of them let's start off at the beginning.
Okay.
Where the chronological order of things are changed drastically, and we start off with the air nomad genocide, which is something I believe we never saw in the animated.
No.
Yeah, and we start off with it,
Mhm.
and we're given this like incredible piece of world building. First things first, compared to the animated show where we start off with Sokka and Katara, and then they find Aang, and then it kind of progresses from there.
Mhm.
No, we start off in the flashbacks. Thoughts on that?
I actually thought it was an interesting idea, especially like the idea that the comet was like causing a festival for all of the air nomads to be in one place at one time, and of course it's Sozin's comet, so it's the perfect time to attack because the firebenders are strongest. So I actually thought that was an interesting idea, and I think it kind of drilled into what the showrunners wanted to do, which I think was probably their most interesting change, was make it more of a grounded live action. So there was like real death, like you saw firebenders actually like scorch people alive, which I think is, if you're going to do an adaptation, like that's an interesting take, because it does add to something that, you know, maybe some people might say is missing from the animated show. I don't think it is, but you know, sometimes that graphic violence does go a bit further for some people to drill that in. So I thought it was an interesting idea, to be completely honest. And it was cool to kind of see them fighting, like these air nomad masters fighting and unfortunately dying. But yeah, I know some people were not fans of it. What did you think, Mikey?
I was definitely 50-50 with it. I thought it was to a degree kind of needed, just because I felt like this is such a big world, like we talked about, and a lot kind of going on already. You know, like even in the animated series, like you kind of go into it, like there's a lot going on, and so I felt like it was to a degree needed just to kind of establish this world and certain things going on, even though we may not have seen all those things in the animated series, like this, for example. I felt like it was kind of important, more so just even for like those viewers who may not even fully know this story, that are kind of viewing this as like a first time viewer sort of thing. But I also did like, yeah, no, I didn't I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of it was, I agree that like for the sake of like that graphicness, it was important. I feel like that is that is maybe like a big part of Avatar. You know, obviously we haven't fully seen, maybe because of the fact that it was it was out for like a kid show and stuff like this, and they gave the ability to do stuff like that. But I don't know, it was just kind of just the out of placeness with it. I don't know, it felt to knowing the story, and maybe that is kind of on me for comparing too much, but it was just kind of also a weird sort of entrance to it all. I don't know, personally, that's how I felt.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mikey. I think that, although I'm very 50-50 on it as well, because it's visually really, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, very tragic and terrible to watch this unfold, but the visuals are great, and seeing this in live action, in which we've never even saw in animated, is pretty interesting. However, I think this really, and this is a common complaint throughout the entire season, and probably going to be the same complaint going into season 2 and 3, is that this chronological change really affects the impact of what comes after, or in the animated show technically comes before. Because if we're starting off with the air nomad genocide, then we already know through that whole opening sequence the whole thing about Aang. We know he's the Avatar. We know his whole dilemma that he's struggling with, because he needs to be the Avatar, but he wants to be a kid. And also, not to mention, which is, we're probably going to bring this up a lot, we learn this through fucking terrible dialogue. Just like such exposition heavy dialogue that's just like blocks of just being our
See, our DVD.
Avatar DVD just fell.
Keep going, Vinny.
Yeah, these just chunks and chunks of just exposition dialogue throughout the entire season. And this is the first example where they're just telling us, hey, this is how I feel, which it's crazy because there was an article that came out that they were supposedly trying to, quote unquote, aim for mature audiences and attract, quote unquote, Game of Thrones fans. Yet it feels so more stupid and like childish compared to the animated show, which was so much more subtle, and you saw like incredible use of show don't tell and just great storytelling. But instead we get here, Aang is like, I feel this way, but I feel this way, and I feel this way, and I feel this way, and I don't feel this way, and yada yada. And I'm like, okay.
The monologues for monologues sake are insane in this show.
Yeah. And then he goes out to sea and he's frozen in the iceberg. And just seeing that first, I feel just ruins the impact of being starting off in the South Pole, being grounded with Katara and Sokka, who don't know bending. Well, obviously Katara is learning it little by little. And then, who's this boy in the ice? Oh, he wants to do penguin sledding, which we don't get in the animated adaptation. I guess that's all right. But he wants to have fun and penguin sledding. And then we find out, like, oh shit, he's the Avatar. And later on, we find out that about the air nomad genocide. I feel like this show, with the change of chronological order, just completely destroys any type of ambiguity or just like mystery of like, hey, you don't question anything because they just tell you straight up before a question is even posed a lot of the time. So that was my quick little rant. I apologize.
No, you also just reminded me, what did you guys think about in that intro section, that whole section? I think it's like one of the first things that we see, but like Aang, like, I hope this is what you're thinking.
Maybe not.
All right, Aang, like, I think it's like the first time you see him actually appear on screen, and he's like essentially flying. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm saying?
People were pissed about that.
Yeah, and so that's actually a reason why I wanted to bring it up, because in the animated, again, I'm not trying to bring so much comparison to the animated series, but I'm pretty sure that never really happened. In the maybe like once, I think somebody brought it up that like it happened where he was like jumping from somewhere and he used airbending to kind of like stop his fall a little bit, and that's like
it's more from Korra. In Korra in season 3, there's another like airbender, and he like gives up his earthly possessions, and then he's given the ability to literally fly without like using airbending to push himself up, and he literally flies. And I think also Avatar Wong, the first airbender, it's in Korra. It's like a section of Korra that they do it in, and a lot of people were like, oh, well, there was a reason why he was able to fly in Korra, so why is Aang flying here? And I know some people were saying like, oh, he wasn't flying, he was still using airbending to kind of push him around. So I wasn't really sure which I kind of fell on, but it definitely wasn't in Avatar. It was definitely in Korra, I think.
Okay, all right. But then he also actively still used his glider at times.
Right, yeah.
Was like, oh, okay.
True.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about that.
Yeah. I feel like maybe they're not paying attention. I don't know what was going on there too, because I saw people they noticed that, and I was reading that online of how a lot of people like were really bad.
But yeah,
for me, it was kind of like whatever.
Okay.
I don't think it really. I wasn't distraught about that. I think there were so many other bigger flaws
to be distraught about.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say, because he brought up monologues, I thought you were gonna say when Gran literally repeated the intro. She's like, hundreds of years ago, the Avatar. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, she is not doing this right now. And she's sorry, that would be mean. Not a good acting performance from Gran. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm gonna comment on that because I don't know who this actress is. She seems like a lovely actress. However, I just wasn't really satisfied with what she was doing here in Avatar. Like you mentioned, it's very like it feels like she's kind of just reading it off of a teleprompter.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, just they monologue and repeat things that we already know multiple times throughout the series, and then also add on top of it more of like, wow, that makes me really sad, or that makes me angry.
And why did they make Gran such a dick in the show? Like, she was so nice in the animated show, and she was such like a loving figure because she's like literally Katara's mother figure because her mom dies when she's so young. But in the show, she's just like the worst. But then like they try and redeem it. They're like, oh, she gave me a scroll in my going away pack. I'm like, oh, but she was terrible when she was on screen.
Yeah,
like, why'd you do this to Gran? So mean.
Yeah, I guess Gran didn't get the respect
she didn't get the respect
that she needed in this live action. Do you guys want to move on to episode 2, where they go to Kyoshi Island?
I actually have some more beef with the Air Nomad massacre. Okay, so one of my favorite scenes in the original first season is when Aang goes into the Avatar state when he sees Monk Gyatso's dead, like the skeleton. He goes into the Avatar state because he's so angry. And Katara is the one to bring him down. She like is able to withstand the storm and grabs his hand, and that brings him down. In the show, he just has like flashbacks in his head and essentially controls the Avatar state, which is literally his 3-season arc of how to control the Avatar state. Yeah. But in the first season, this first scene, he uses the Avatar state. He controls the Avatar state. I'm like, what? No. This is a change that is bad because it goes against his literal arc of the show. And I'm like, this is... Because now it's like he has control of the Avatar state. He just, he gets a bad memory. Oh, okay, I'm out of the Avatar state. And she doesn't do anything. And I'm like, Katara is supposed to be his anchor. And she's not his anchor here.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Oh, I was so mad at that. But yeah, we can go to Kyoshi Island.
Yeah, actually, no, you reminded me now. I forgot that happened at the end of episode 1. And that is, that is one of the best moments, like you mentioned, in season 1 of the animated series. And it really seems, and there's other changes later on in this season, that it seems like they're really trying not to do the whole Aang Katara thing. Like they're, Aang and Katara in the animated series, there's a lot of tension there. And they're two characters that have such a beautiful relationship with each other. And in this, Katara feels very just there. And I guess they were trying to stay away from stereotypes or whatnot. But her character is just doesn't have the same oomph that she did in the animated series. Like a lot of her agency is taken away in moments, and we'll get to some other changes later on, specifically Secret Tunnel, which is why I'm bringing this up now.
Yeah.
Also, that whole sequence happens very quickly, and that also is a testament to the pacing of the show, where you have one of the most emotional scenes in the animated series kind of shrinked into this very quick kind of moment towards the end of the first episode in this. It just feels like they're squeezing and shrinking plot lines to try to fit it in while taking other plot lines and making them much longer than they even should be. So
I think we could all agree that Team Avatar did not have any chemistry. So like any chemistry like that Katara and Aang had in the TV show, where it was like, oh, is there a love interest there? It's like Aang and Sokka don't even have like a very fun relationship in the show. Like the Team Avatar thing, when they're like, we're a family. I'm like, I don't believe that for 1 second that you guys are a family, because you guys are just like together because the show said you're together now. So I don't know what they were doing with Avatar with Aang and Katara. They made it more of like a really hard friendship. Like you're like Aang when they're around, I'm skipping ahead, but like when Aang's at the like dinner table with her and he looks at her and he's like, Katara, can I ask you something? I'm like, oh, is he gonna? And then he's like, you're really good at this, or like something. I'm like, oh, okay, we're just gonna do that. And they never have tension in this season. Like in the first season, like he picks up waterbending faster than her, and she's mad at him, and it's like, this is conflict that makes family. Like you need conflict. Everyone can't just be like ring around the rosy all the time. Like there needs to be conflict between people to form a bond. But in this one, they're just like, just have happy memories. And she's like, water whip. And then he's like, you're good at waterbending now. And it's like, all right, great.
You brought up another complaint of mine, but I'm gonna hold it. Mikey, do you wanna? I know you haven't spoken.
Any complaints you want to get out, Mikey?
Yeah, for sure. Funny. I also agree as far as chemistry with the entire family. I felt was not there. I just felt like I also heavily agree that Katara's character I feel like was kind of just there. Is like I wanted a lot more out of that. Out of her performance, out of her performance, and honestly, I don't know. I just felt like there is so much tension and chemistry between Katara and Aang. I wonder, and this makes me question a lot of with the show. The actor that they chose for Aang is, at least when they got him, I know that he was like a kid, like he was like very, very young. And so I'm wondering if they avoided tension and just kept it in like a family friendly.
Yeah, that's
like,
fair.
You know what I'm saying? Simply because of the fact that, like maybe they want to build up to something like that.
Right.
Maybe wait until like he's a little older, because I don't know if you've seen him now, but he is like, I think he's like, appearance wise, he looks a lot older. So it's like it's kind of justifying some things that they might do in future seasons. I don't know.
That's a good point.
But that's maybe why I'm still angry though that we were robbed. Like that's a huge point too, as far as like the water bending, just because I feel like a lot of their relationship is made on the water bending and like everything. Like obviously like they've taught each other a lot, but like he's the avatar, so like
Yes.
just like experience wise, I don't know, like that's another thing that I'm kind of mad about. Like like granted, like in the animated show, Aang is a kid. He is still a kid, and like he like everything he does is very childish, and that's what makes his character. But like there is still like a sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but like he's the avatar. You know what I'm saying?
It's like a hidden maturity.
Exactly.
Kind of in there.
Exactly. I felt like I didn't get that completely out of this. I felt like the times, even when like he had to step up in the live action and kind of like exude a little bit more of a maturity, or mature, just be mature. I felt like I was reminded again of like, oh, this is a kid. You know, this is a kid, and I don't know if that like it comes from his performance, if it comes from an age thing, if it comes from just the fact that in animation you can play more with maybe even childlike things and stuff like that. But I just wasn't really a fan. And yeah, likewise with a lot of things. And Aang, and that's another part that I really want to talk about, just because my favorite episode, it was episode 6, where you spend a lot of time with Aang and Sokka's character. And what's it called? I don't know. I just feel like,
Which one was episode 6? What happened?
That was
episode
Masks.
6?
Masks. Yeah.
Oh, that was like the blue spirit comes and saves Aang.
Was that the one before it? I think that was the Spirit World episode.
Yeah, that was the Spirit World episode right before that.
No. I'm saying Zuko with the blue spirit mask saving Aang.
Oh,
that's Mask, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also just mixed up a name so bad.
Oh, you said Sokka.
That's why I'm
Okay.
that's why I'm confusing everybody.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Zuko and Aang.
Zuko and Aang. My
Right.
bad. But that was another thing that I also meant to say. I did not feel like Sokka and Katara's probably, like, at times I didn't even feel like they were brother and sister. I don't know, like it was like that's how much chemistry was kind of off. But like likewise, what I meant to say before, I feel like there is sort of a story to Aang and Zuko's character, and this is very early on to be bringing this up. I feel like in the show, but there were things that I definitely want to touch on. Maybe it's better to wait for episode where we talk about.
I'm
that
okay
episode.
if we want to jump around. If we don't want to go episode by episode.
Yeah, we could jump around.
Yeah,
we could jump
I'm
around.
fine jumping around. Go into it. Go into it.
All right, I'm gonna go into it. So one of the things that I always appreciated with Avatar was how they tackled Zuko and Aang's like kind of relationship, because it is very much like a love-hate relationship to a degree, and and I do appreciate that in this show. I really want to talk about Zuko in this show. Actually,
he's like my favorite character almost of all time. He's in I love Zuko.
Right? Like Zuko is like badass. He's really cool, and just like I love how they have always portrayed him. But like this performance of Zuko was at times like, I don't know. It was a little whiny at times. I know Zuko can kind of be like that.
My honor.
You know he is. Yeah. But like, I don't know. Maybe again. I don't know if it has to do with like live action versus animation, and like if certain things work better in that. I don't know. But Zuko's character, I feel like, was a weird portrayal, because I kind of still liked his character arc throughout it, and I just like Zuko's whole character, like you brought up, is just like so interesting. Everything that kind of he has to do with the Fire Nation, I feel like is so contrasting to it, but then also like the relationship with his dad and everything, and it's just like I feel like that's why I really liked episode 6, because in the animation, I feel like when you kind of got to explore Zuko, and even like the later seasons when you really got to explore Zuko, like I just really appreciated that. And there was a moment, I know when he had captured Aang, where it's just like I kind of wanted them to play more into like they're both just like their characters. I don't know, just because I something about their relationship, that love-hate relationship, and being so oddly similar to a degree, being like almost like a chosen sort of position. I don't know. I just felt like they had room in episode 6 to play with that, and I really wanted that, and they didn't do that.
It comes down to pacing again, because they had like that time in the shed, and like within like 2 seconds he knocks him out with the airbending. It's like, well, we could have kind of dug in there a little more, because they have like a little mutual thing where they kind of connect a little, and then something happens really quickly, and then he knocks him out. It's like, okay, well, there goes anything we could have done there. So it feels like they were like, oh, we have to try and do that, but we got to keep the story moving, so we can't stop right now and do too much with it. But yeah, I totally agree. They have a really cool relationship in the first season. Aang even saves his life in like the season finale, when he's left in the snow, knocked out, and they're about to leave, and he's like, no, he's gonna die, I gotta go save him, even if he's trying to kill me. So just and I think that they did that here. Like Aang does save him and like lets him go, but I agree, there was more to do with that relationship, and
he was still like so stuck on a lot of internal things, which again is Zuko, like that's his character, so it made sense. But I don't know, I felt like again like yes, that was a perfect moment in the shed where like they could have, but it's like very little things would just like trigger this adaptation of him, and where things could have been flushed out more. One of my favorite scenes in the animated series is this moment where Aang kind of just brings up how he had an old friend that was in the Fire Nation, and he asked Zuko, it's like, do you think we would have been friends back then? And I remember like that beat in the animated series. I don't know why I loved it so much, but it was like the moment where you realize, oh, like these two characters are like so oddly similar, but like, and you just see the innocence in Aang, and you know that it is kind of in Zuko, but he's not allowing himself to do that. And when they like attempted, and let me say attempted to do it in the live action, I just felt like it was kind of robbed, because again, it was like it was rushed. It was just like, I just felt that same way about all of this. I will though say that Zuko's character portrayal at times in that same episode was kind of good, I could say. Good enough that it made the episode my favorite episode, and good enough that it helped to back up a lot of the things that were going on in like temper wise and like why he was reacting to certain things as quick as he was. I don't know. I feel like to see in a live action state just that sort of story arc of him first kind of being involved, I thought was kind of interesting. The way they did it, and I appreciated that just because it backed his character up a little more. But it still also wasn't like that good. I'll be honest, it wasn't like amazing. It was still like it just helped. It supported that character who I felt like maybe showed some of the most character arc or in this whole season.
Yeah.
But let me stop. Talking.
Yeah.
I've been talking a lot.
I agree. I actually think that also episode 6 Mask was the best episode in my opinion from out of the 8. I think that I think the actor's name, Dallas Liu, who plays Zuko, I think he does a fairly good job for most of it. And I think where Zuko's character really kind of suffers, and like I mentioned prior, Zuko he like means a lot to me because that character is a character that I deeply resonated with when I watched the animated show. And to this day, like his character arc and his overall character is one of my favorite characters of all time. And I think that his impact in this, I don't think he was as ruined as some other characters like Katara, but I think his impact is watered down through chronological order of things, going back to taking flashbacks and showing them way before compared to when we see them in the animated show. We see Azula and Fire Lord Ozai in full, like, we get a lot of screen time with them. Azula doesn't show up till book 2 in the animated series, and Ozai is this like shadowed, like in the back figure. You have Mark Hamill's voice, his menacing voice in the animated series, and in this we're shown a lot. And I've seen a lot of people actually like this, like, oh, we're establishing Azula, like and her you're establishing the Fire Nation and the dynamic between father, son, and then daughter much more earlier on. For me, I did not like this at all. I really liked the fact that Ozai was this like silhouette that you never really saw because he's built up upon, and you just hear his name and his name and his name and his name. And then when he shows up towards the, like, in full battle, like, you see him, head to toe in the animated series, then it's like, oh shit, like, he's here to fuck shit up, you know what I mean? So in this, I apologize, my thoughts are like kind of all over the place. I'm trying to grab my words. I just didn't like how they're showing like the Agni Kai between Zuko and Ozai early on and Zula early on. I just felt it was unnecessary and ruined the impact of going back to that idea of like building a mystery, and then we kind of figure it out and you're like, oh my god, there's no mystery being built here. It's just, oh, there we go. So a general story structure of build up, and payoff is more like in this show, not even any build off, just here's the answer, here's the payoff. Wait, but there's no build up. Or you have build up, payoff. And it was like, that was it. Like, we only were to question and have our own thought process as an audience for half an episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, with like Azula, it's like there's no subtext, or nuance, because you're just telling the audience like, dad doesn't believe in me. But in the show, she, like, it's a mask. Like, her confidence is a mask that she doesn't have, like, the love from her parents, and like that's the mask, and that's why you see her, she's all confident, she's always smiling, she has her evil smile. In this show she's just like always crying. She's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And it's like, it's not Azula's character. Like you're physically changing what made her interesting as a villain by just telling us like, I'm not good enough. And then like in season 3, when you finally see like her trauma from her mother not like loving her and her dad like putting these expectations on her, it's like, oh, that makes sense why she would go crazy and build this persona. Like, it's again, it's just there's no nuance. It's just, here you go, here's the character,
Yeah.
all of it right now.
Exactly. And I want to go back to waterbending.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like the both of you guys mentioned Katara and Aang's dynamic in here. We don't see Aang waterbend once.
in book 1 water.
Yeah. In like Mark, like you mentioned, like the whole point is that he learns faster than Katara and there's tension there. In this, he doesn't even waterbend. But by the end of this, does he know waterbending? Did like the whole fusing with the spirit at the end, is that just going to be in season 2? Like, oh, I'm master of waterbending now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Why would they cut that out? That's like one of the most important parts of the whole arc of book 1. This is supposed to be an adaptation of book 1. It's like,
which is called Water. Book
Yeah.
1, Water.
Yeah.
I think
So-
it even says on here. Book 1, Water. Learn waterbending.
I just don't understand. I
I do
Yeah.
wonder if they did that. And this is still kind of stupid of a reason, but like I'm wondering if it is because they wanted to set it as like Katara is gonna be like the waterbender of this series, you know, like that's not even like focus on Aang like touching that, like just because like we
Yeah.
want to cement Katara as being like this master waterbender sort of thing and
Yeah.
build that up. I'm like, even hearing myself say it, I'm like,
You don't have to defend it. You don't have to defend it. They messed it up.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
And in season 1 he learns firebending, and that whole episode is
Yes.
literally about the ghost that haunts him for the rest of the show, about him not wanting to learn firebending because he burns Katara. He's like, no, I'm not learning that. And then the rest of the show, the next 2 seasons, you're like, well, shit, he can't just be the master of 3 elements. Like, is he never going to learn firebending? And then when he finally learns it with Zuko, it's like, look at that. That's so nice. But no,
Yeah.
this one, we're not doing that.
Exactly. No, I 100% agree. That's such a powerful character moment in the first season of the animated series that to have it omitted from here it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah.
And we're omitted so much, kind of going back to like the whole idea of chemistry and charm that the animated series has. We don't really get any charming scenes. I mean, there's little jokes and whatnot, but I just remember from the animated series, you know, like little scenes of like Momo being goofy and you know, connections with Appa, or just like, you know, chemistry building charming scenes that we don't get here. It just kind of feels like they're speed running through major plot point to the point where by the end of it, when Momo has that accident, I completely forgot Momo was a thing. I was like, oh shit.
That was
Mo.
crazy. I was like, did they just
Momo.
kill Momo?
Yeah.
I was like, that is a crazy thing to do. But
Yeah.
they had to get the characters to the koi pond, of course. So we're just gonna do and then writing. Oh well, these guys have to be there. Okay, Momo can almost die. All right, good. Okay, then Yue can save him in the water. Yeah. Okay, that'll get them there. Yeah, crazy.
That also brings up a whole crazy idea of like, is Momo now fused with a little bit of the moon spirit now? Like Yue, like whatever happened with that?
Momo's got the water bending down now. He's the ocean and the moon.
Yeah, like it's just like stupid. Let's talk about Oh my god, oh my god, I apologize. I just
We could
lost
talk
my
about
train of thought.
we could talk about Sokka and him being like in love within one episode with Yue and Suki within the same episode. Like it happened fast in the show, in the animated show, definitely. Like I'm not saying that is not true, but in this show it's like so fast. like with Yue, she's like, "You're the boy of my dreams" in the second episode.
Yeah.
The second scene that they're in together, and I know they're like, "Oh, but they met in the spirit world. How like star-crossed lovers?" And I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, this is crazy. And I do want to give credit to Sokka's actor. Like, I do think he does his best with this material. I think they give him some cringy lines, and like Sokka's comedic timing in the animated show is just like so perfect, and his voice is so perfect. So it was hard to replicate, and I give him some credit here, but I just wanted to talk about Sokka's love interest because I thought those were really funny because they were so fast. But yeah, I don't know. What was the thing you maybe wanted to say before that I?
Well, I'll go back to what I was going to say later on.
Okay.
But speaking of Sokka,
Yeah.
let's talk about a little bit of controversy.
Oh,
There was an
okay.
article that came out that said they were omitting Sokka's sexism. So his minor character arc of being humbled by Suki was completely omitted here. So his relationship with Suki in this, he's never. I do think the show makes up for it in like his overall arc where he's trying to figure out who he really is. Is he a warrior? Is he, a technician? Like where's he really lie? And I like seeing what they did there. However, we never get the humbled Sokka. Where Sokka is really cocky, and then he gets absolutely humbled by Suki, and then they grow a relationship from there. In this, it's just Suki, just love at first sight type of deal.
He's never really cocky in the show. Like I don't remember him really being cocky in the show, and I think that's
Yeah.
the problem. It's like a lot of these characters are just like sterilized versions where they're just perfect.
Yeah.
Like Aang's
Yeah.
just like driven by motivation, and he's perfect. Katara is gonna become a master waterbender. She's perfect. She has no trials except like a little bit when they tell her she can't bend, and then in 2 scenes later they're like, "Okay, you can bend, do it."
Yeah.
And then Sokka, he's never like cocky. He's always just kind of the jokester, and he's just flat the whole time. And in the animated TV series, is there a scene when his dad is disappointed in him? I don't remember if that was like a plot point in the animated show.
I'm gonna be real. I don't remember. I felt foreign when I saw it.
Right. Yeah. Like he failed the test, but his dad just passed him for like because he's his son, but he was disappointed because he almost got the crew killed or something. I feel like that wasn't in the animated show, so I thought that was like an interesting change. I don't think that's bad, because Sokka was always looking up to his dad, and like having your dad that you look up to look disappointed in you. I mean, that's an interesting character moment, but I feel like it was just thrown in at the end, kind of, or towards the end of the season, and it wasn't like a thing from the beginning. But yeah, that was just kind of a off the beaten path point.
No, I honestly forgot that's how quick it was kind of thrown in there. but like now that you're reminding me of it, like it is, I actually do kind of like that piece.
Yeah.
I feel like Sokka's character, like, and we know how much his character is for truly finding himself, and they really should try and push that in this. I feel like in this show for sure. And so I appreciate that having that just be like a little like back knowledge of like him knowing like that's what's also really driving him to do everything that he's doing. I do wish that we got more of a cocky Sokka though. I felt like the times that we did see a little bit of that cockiness, it was covered in the cringiness, which I feel like, which I mean, like in the animated series also that kind of also happens, but like this was strictly just comedic relief, like strictly, and I never really saw like a truly confident Sokka, or even like a fully like, did he ever really like get his moment where he like, I'm trying to remember.
I mean, he barely used boomerang, and
Right.
like that's like the little like his calling card in the animated show.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
Boomerang is always going to come back, and I don't think he throws it once in the show.
He throws it like once when he's showing Suki, like, oh, look at this, I made this myself. And then Suki shows off. Yeah, it's just like you mentioned, sterilized. Like they're just so watered down. Like everything that made it so impactful at first,
That was that moment where they're in like I forget where they were, but like where then she like did it and like showed off and like I
Yeah.
guess that kind of was a sort of humbled moment.
Yeah.
Not like
Yeah.
the humbleness that that we're wanting, but
Mhm.
like she still kind of I guess did it at times. But I did like that moment just because there was a moment where I felt like he really, really displayed like true Sokka. And it was like right after she showed him up basically, and he was just like yeah, like
Yeah.
so, like something like that.
True.
And that's
Mhm.
like that was one of those moments where I was like, all right, that's Sokka. But
Mhm.
other times I was like, yeah, this isn't really Sokka.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it because it's been on my mind.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Spirit World episode.
Oh my god.
Let's-
Let's do it.
let's-
Oh my god.
I absolutely hated this episode. I couldn't stand it, and they just there's a middle chunk of episodes here, and this included, where they are fitting so many little plot lines and like interwinding them, where in the original they were very separated.
Mhm.
And they make so many changes to the Spirit World where it's just like in the live action here, like what are we doing? They're just wandering around a forest, and there's like no I forget the name of the spirit, but Aang never
Oh, Heibai. They never. Yeah, they just like, we need to go in there and save Heibai, and then they just leave him. He just charges them. And he's like, nah, no, we're good.
Aang never has his moment with Heibai or anything, and then we also see the owl from the library episode come out. So are they going to do the library episode in book 2? That also really concerns me because that's one of my favorite episodes of the animated series, and I was like, oh shit, this would be really cool if this was adapted well in live action. Like imagine like coming out of the ground, and Toph is like one of my favorite characters. Anyhow, I'm going on a whole
Sokka
tangent.
drinking the cactus juice.
yeah, exactly. Like, are we ever gonna get those moments? Are we ever gonna get
Right.
them? Or why is the owl there? Like, what? Like, the whole Spirit episode was just bizarre. It was so bizarre, the changes that were made, and how it was just everything was being shoved together. And Aang is like, okay, I gotta save my friends from Koi, the face stealer. So I gotta go to the Fire Island, which this does happen in the animated show, but the plot lines aren't so interconnected, and here they're interconnected in the very weird way.
And he flies to Roku's island on his glider.
Yeah,
Like he just flies across the ocean on like a wooden glider.
yeah,
And in the animated show, the whole crew goes. Like it's like a whole like journey with Appa and everything. And yeah, here he just goes there to get a totem to give to Ko, and he doesn't have to do anything to, reason with Ko. He doesn't have to do the no face like emotion thing, which was so freaking cool. Like that world building aspect. He just like, oh, my friends are taken by Ko. I gotta go get a totem. Here's the totem. Okay, here's all your friends back. It's like, this is all there because it's world building. It makes the spirit realm feel lived in and have a history. And they just like, nah, we just gotta put Sokka and Katara in the spirit world because reasons. Heibai, we're not saving Heibai because reasons. It's crazy.
it just like why? Like it just felt like a waste of time, and I'm like. Which it shouldn't feel like a waste of time. Like I don't understand the decision here. And then same with the Omashu episode, where they're shoving a lot of these plot lines into like one interconnected plot line, even though it doesn't even feel interconnected. Like Jet, who is a significant character, feels like rushed over in this. And then okay, he's there, he's gone. He only has an interaction with Katara. He doesn't have an interaction with anyone else. Same with Boomy, who Boomy was one of my favorite characters in the anime series. I don't like the changes they made here. Like Boomy was very likable in the animated series, and there was that whole like I could be wrong on this, so people might hate us in the comments, if they're not already hating us in the comments, but whatever. I could be wrong, but I believe in the animated series, Boomy, like we don't know he's Boomy until the end of his trial with Aang, and then he's like, oh my god, you're Boomy, and then they're like, oh, let's be friends again. But in this, that whole twist is, I could be remembering this completely wrong. So if I am, I sound like an idiot right now. But in this, Aang immediately recognizes like, oh, you're Boomy, and then Boomy's unlikable. Like he's just like a dickhead politician, and he's putting Aang through these trials to not really teach him a lesson compared to the original. And it was just, I don't like the shoving of all these arcs into
crazy.
one, know.
If I'm not mistaken, especially with Boomy, I feel like when you first met him in the comic the animated series, it was all strictly just like a playful sort of interaction. Now I'm thinking when you first at least meet him, and you're right, it was very much in the live action just like unlikable. You're right. And so I know, just thinking back to that, they did do that very wrong. For sure.
And the thing about the Jet thing is, like, when they were going to the forest to go to Jet's camp, how'd they leave Omashu and then get back in? Like, weren't they smuggled into Omashu? Like, they just, once you get in, you get like free passes to go in and out. Like, that that forest didn't look like it was inside Omashu. I was like, what? I don't even know what's going on here. Why Jet wanted to kill the king? He's like, we need to destroy the rotten core. I'm like, what rotten core? Like, what? Tell me more about the city. Why is the city rotten? You're blowing shit up, not the firebenders. Like, what's going on? Like, I have no idea what's going on. You're just like telling me that there's things wrong in the city without showing me why things are wrong in the city. So, which sucks again, because Jet's storyline is so interesting, because it's like people losing themselves because of what the Fire Nation is doing. But like here, it's just like, I don't know what he's doing here.
They wasted so much potential with his character just because he honestly was also, to me, one of the most badass character when it came to like choreography at times. Like I was like, oh wait, okay, like this is pretty cool. Okay. And then I wish they played more into that. His character was very rushed.
Yeah, I will give them props, however, on the Omashu 2 episodes. Has one of the best action set pieces, which is the fight with Aang and Zuko on the street, like kind of amidst the marketplace. That was really well choreographed, I think, and I think that was honestly like just my favorite part in this entire series. I just thought it was really well choreographed. I love the moment when they like kind of like fall into like this textile shop. Of like fabrics and whatnot, and they're fighting within the fabrics, and then you have this woman like start beating Zuko over the head, like saying how he like, why are you hitting a kid? And then you also get the Cabbage Man. It just felt very like, okay, they're doing something here, and then everything else kind of falls apart after that.
I'm wondering if Zuko's actor is like a trained martial artist, because it felt like he was doing his own stunts, like he was doing like the spinning kicks and everything, and I really loved like how much they integrated like Zuko's like iconic like kicking attacks with the flames. Like I thought that was really cool how they did that with Zuko. But yeah, Omashu was just like a mess. I think I'm trying to remember my favorite part of the show. I think happens during the Omashu arc. I think it's in episode 4. It's where we do like the flashback to Iroh and his son dying, and Zuko like comforting him at the funeral. I know a lot of people might not like that. They added Iroh's son so early. Like I know people love the Tales of Ba Sing Se when we get that whole backstory, and I don't disagree. But in this show, what they were going for with like Zuko and Iroh's relationship and kind of making Zuko maybe a little bit more sympathetic, like we have his crew of his ship is apparently like the crew that he stuck up for when they were going to be sent on a suicide mission. And then this scene at what's his name, Liu Ten's funeral, and they used the Leaves from the Vine score from the original, and that's always gonna make me get like emotional because it's so beautiful. But I really like that scene, and then you see like Iroh's actor, like there's just like he's keeping a straight face because he has to look strong, but he like the one tear falls. I was like, this emotion, this is good, this is what the show needs. And so that was my favorite moment from the show, and why I think that Zuko and Iroh, even though obviously they're not as good as the animated versions, I do think they did a good job of adding things to their relationship here without detracting from the original. And I think that happened in episode 4 is the only reason I bring it up in the Omashu talk. But how did you guys feel about Iroh in the show?
Mikey, do you want to comment on it? Or
Again, just because I'm not gonna lie, I liked Iroh in this. I did. I wish we got a little bit more of a playful side from him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he still acted as sort of a comedic relief at times with Zuko. It was like he obviously, I feel like he served that justice, he served that purpose to a degree in the live action, but I feel like in the animated series, like there were times where like he was always like eating something. Maybe I'm mixing that up with something.
no, he was always eating,
Just
eating
and
his
having
food,
tea
and playing Pai Sho. Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, like things like that. Like I wish we kind of explored more of. I felt like this was just more of like I am like kind of just like over you, kind of being like a protective thing, knowing the relationship that you had with my brother, and like I'm just gonna kind of be there and care for you, which I appreciated, and I like that side of Iroh. I just wish we got a little bit more of that playful side. Now I'm really thinking about it, but yeah, he was one of the better character portrayals, I think, in this whole show.
I totally agree. I agree with everything you just said. I think he's just overall one of the more better portrayals. You have like moments like that, Mark, where I think he really hits the note there. However, like Iroh is one of the best characters like ever.
Yeah.
And I wish we saw a little bit more of like his charm. They allude to it. Like, like I was just watching these guys play Pai Sho, and they're so good because they don't use the regular tactics. Like, we're alluded to it. He says tea, like, hey, you want some tea, like once.
Yeah.
But I feel like we never see it. We don't really have those like small charming moments. So yeah, I do agree. Though overall, I think he was better compared to the others on how they were handled. Do you guys want to go into Secret Tunnel?
Yeah.
Because
I did also like the scene where Iroh has that confrontation with the Earthbender soldier who's supposed to be like taking care of him, and like he's always threatening him because he knows what he did to Ba Sing Se during the siege. And I thought there was a really good line where he's like, I still like smell smoke like when I try and sleep at night. I'm like, oh, there we go, character, emotion, here we go. And he like threatens to drop the boulder on him because of what he did in his past. And it's like, okay, this is good. We're building, we're doing stuff. This is great. And I feel like that was episode 4 too. So I guess episode 4 was maybe my favorite episode because it was Iroh and Zuko. They had some good moments. But continue on with the. I feel like it's gonna be a short one. Yeah,
Secret Tunnel is very iconic. The Secret Tunnel, right? That's iconic, and they do it here with the little musical group. However, the big change between the Tunnels of Love is now it's not Aang and Katara. It is Aang and Sokka.
No, Katara and Sokka.
Or sorry, yeah, Katara. That'd be a whole other.
Aang and Sokka, come on.
Yeah, that'd be a whole other story. But it is between the siblings and their mutual love there. So it just feels to me like that moment, or like I mentioned before when we talked about the Southern Air Temple scene where Katara never has her moment there, never has being the anchor. Katara and Aang, they don't have moments where their relationship is growing. And, there might be other reasons, because there are young actors. And like you mentioned, Mikey, I don't know. They're just not building the relationship between Katara and Aang. And I just felt like such an iconic scene, such an iconic episode from the original is rushed over and watered down like so many other points that we brought up here, where it's just like, okay, yeah, that was a lot. Okay.
Like a brother sister love tunnel instead of like the show's the point of the whole thing in the show.
Yeah. Now they're really trying to get Game of Thrones fans.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
true.
It's true. Yeah, I think the only other thing I have to add to the love tunnel is the badger moles. Like they just made them like monsters instead of like these very docile creatures that open the pathways for people.
Yeah.
They made it like a scary creature that didn't even earthbend the doors. It just started drilling, and I'm like, no, the animals are supposed to be the original benders. That's world building. Yeah. Why are you doing this?
And like 10 minutes before that, they even said like, oh, this is where the first earthbenders were made, where they learned it from the badger moles.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, that we just see
it's just a regular mole.
Yeah, exactly.
What the hell? Yeah. God.
Yeah.
I agree with all of that 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely waste of a major point in that 100%. And then what else was I gonna say before? I was gonna say something that really like pissed me off. It'll come back.
Sokka and Katara and
Sokka, yeah, that's right. Again, they like really just like deprived us of a very important chemistry storyline, especially for like the future, because like when are they like there's a big future element that they could play into if they want to build this world that they just aren't building into at all. And so I thought it was really dumb that this whole show was like a Vin Diesel sort of family sort of like power mark with like why do we need that? Like, so yeah, I like brother sister love.
It's a good point. Like you said, like it feels like they're not setting anything up for the future. Like they're just worrying about things now, and nothing's being set up. There's no payoffs that are going to come later. Like all of these things we've been talking about throughout, between like Aang's waterbending and Aang and Katara having a relationship, Aang's firebending ghost, like Sokka having the arc, like Azula having like nuance. Like there's just nothing that is set up for later seasons. The Avatar State, he already figured out the Avatar State, so it's nothing we're gonna do there. It's just like what is there to look forward to? Like we already got everything. So
no, 110% agree. Like, and that's what was really frustrating me about the chronological changing of things, where we're seeing flashbacks a lot earlier than we do in the original, because and even just like the subtle changes and just everything in general, like like you said, like when I think of the animated series, I think like, okay, I think like the break that Azula has, where she just goes schizo, right? And that's also one of the best voice acting performances of all time, in my opinion. And it's like, but we're already being told, like you mentioned, we're just being told how Azula feels rather than seeing her mask that she puts on, which then just kind of omits. That's already ruining the future. That's already ruining the impact for what's to come. Same with the relationship between Katara and Aang, like you mentioned. Same with Boomy. Boomy ends up fighting the three girls, and now when Boomy's character is going to come back, like, Boomy's unlikable in this. Like, what? Like, in the original, he was likable. So, like, if they're going to faithfully adapt it to the point where he fights the three girls, like, I'm not going to cheer on Boomy.
I don't like Boomy right now.
Yeah, man. I just feels like they're not being conscious of what they're building up and what they're wanting to pay off.
Yeah.
So
Like, yeah, all the things that made the show special are being changed, and that's why people are mad about the changes. It's okay if you made changes, it also has to respect what came before, and
yeah.
it's not happening. Yeah, I mean, what's next? I mean, do we want to talk about like maybe the sequence where Zhao finally kills the moon spirit? Do we want to talk about the past avatars portrayals? Like, I thought that was pretty faithful. Like they were all just very stern and like very like, no, you got to do this on your own, and like Aang's like, oh, I'll figure out my own path. But again, Katara says it to him at the end of season 1 instead of him learning that lesson on his own. She's like, we're a family. We're gonna always be here for you. And I feel like that's like, no, that's like a lesson he learns on his own. Like he's like, oh wait, maybe I do have to be like the other avatars, and I'll figure this out on my own. And then it's a payoff at the end. But here, Katara's like, we'll always be here for you.
Yeah.
Because we're family. It's like, are you really? Yeah, I don't know. Did you like Zhao in this show? What they did with him here being a little bit more front and center, and then kind of how they paid off this iconic scene where the moon turns red. He kills the moon spirit. I don't know. Did you guys like that portrayal?
It's really hard to say, to be honest. Mikey, do you have any like initial thoughts that? Or...
I thought. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I that's another 50-50 thing for me. I felt like I liked the direction that they took with it, and the direction that they could have went with it. I definitely think that again it was just the execution of things. I appreciated seeing him in the forefront too, to answer your question.
Right.
I appreciated that just because I felt like there was more with his character that was to be seen in that light, and so that I liked, and I felt like it story wise it just kind of helped. Having him do the whole moon thing, it was, I don't know. At the same time though, I feel like and I don't know if it was pacing in that last sequence again. I don't know if it was I don't know exactly what, but it didn't fully hit for me. It just didn't fully. Again, but I like that direction. Mm-hmm. I like that direction for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think it's almost tough to kind of comment on for me. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be real. Zhao, like I remember him, but I don't like really remember him from the OG. So I don't think his newer portrayal of like he's a lot less subtle in this. Mm-hmm. I don't think it really didn't what's the word? It didn't bug me too much. Yeah. It didn't bug me too much. But it was interesting to see like he is, like you mentioned, more front and center. And he's a little bit more of like a attitude, I guess you'd say, you know?
He's more of like a schemer in this version. I think in the original he was very much the like intimidation first thing, and in this one he's kind of more like a backdoor dealing Zhao, which I thought was an interesting change. But I thought the actor did a good job with it. Again, it's not better than the original. I still think the original Zhao is better, but here I appreciated them doing something different. I don't think it totally didn't work in this version. Again, I don't like the way they killed him in this, because in the animated they killed the ocean spirit, grabbed him and drowned him to end it, but in this one Iroh just shoots him with a fireball, and I'm like, no, it's supposed to be poetic justice. The ocean spirit killed. Yeah, I think they tried to like allude to it that they like Iroh shot him into the water and then the water was glowing, so then like the shot probably didn't kill him, but then the ocean spirit like probably sucked him down and killed him. But it was so much cooler in the show, in the animated, where it's just like this hand comes up, grabs him, and then Zuko's like, no, wait. And he's like, you know what, I'm dead. And then it pulls it under. It's like, I don't know. I thought it like built up the spirits more, that they are these emotional beings and they can affect real world things. And like Zhao like got what came to him. But like Iroh killing him, it's like, I mean, I guess he did you guys wrong, kind of, but not as much as the ocean spirit. So yeah.
That actually reminded me during the finale. They cut one of my favorite scenes which is the scene when Zuko actually captures Aang and they're in the cave. And he says, like, he has that kind of monologue where he's like, I was talking about his father and Azula. And he says, I forget how it exactly goes in the animated, but he mentions how he was told that he was lucky to be born compared to Azula. And I think they do it here. I feel like I heard that line, but it's not in the same way they did in the animated series where Zuko is literally talking to Aang.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's just a missed opportunity. Like that is such a like that hits hard when he's talking about like how like his family literally like you're just lucky to here I have it pulled up now. But yeah, anyhow, I don't want to kind of go off here, but yeah, that was just I think a missed opportunity, just something that I really love in the original that I was kind of sad not to see here, especially since it builds on Zuko's character so much. So
yeah, it's a lot of tough bounces, and like Aang connecting with the ocean spirit to like go into the Avatar state feels shallow here because he doesn't have those moments in the spirit realm where he saves Heibai, where he interacts with Ko like in a meaningful sense. Like it doesn't like at the end of season 1 it felt like Aang had this spiritual journey where he did feel like the bridge between both worlds, but in this one it just feels like he just went to the spirit world by accident and then just saved his friends using like a totem. He never saves Heibai, so there's no like real relationship between him and the spirit world. So then when he's like, oh, I'm going to connect with the ocean spirit and do the Avatar state, I was just like, this feels cheapened.
Yeah.
That moment. So,
yeah.
Which is something that I feel like throughout the entire season kind of annoyed me as far as Aang. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I feel like obviously Aang's character and just the definition of just like being an avatar, which we all know is you have to do this sort of thing on your own. That's nothing new to any of us. But I feel like this adaptation of Aang was too focused on I gotta do my own thing, because like at times, like you said, like even I forget where exactly he went. It was when he glided into, where did he go by himself?
Oh, like Roku's Island.
Yes. And typically, like there would be like a team with them, like the team, things like that, where you are just seeing him, just really trying to like be like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I like things like that? It was like too focused on that at times. Where you're right, he could have just like interacted with like certain spirit worlds and stuff like that, and they could have played more in interactions, and like he could have like they probably again would have in some degree pointed him in that direction as well, that like like this is like you got to do your own thing sort of thing, but like you still could have played more with guidance in areas and just even establishing that there is some sort of help, like just like he isn't fully in this alone. And I feel like like in those times that's when it got shadowed underneath like the whole family thing again too as well. It's just like at times where like he could have played into that, it just went back to Katara, and which it was barely even that. So it's like I don't know, it's like that's all I gotta say.
Yeah All right, I think honestly it's a nice settling off point. Do you guys have any other last minute thoughts, or do you guys have scores? Because I have a score.
Oh, I never like do scores usually. I guess like a 6.
All right, 6 out of 10.
Like a 5 or 6. Because like you said, it wasn't a slog to get through. Like I could get through it. I wasn't enjoying it the entire time, but I guess like a 5. Yeah, 5 or 6. I don't know.
Okay.
I think I would do 6.5.
Really?
I would.
Okay.
I respect that score.
Okay. I'm the most negative here. I'm giving this a light 5.
Okay.
So like honestly, bordering on a 4,
Yeah.
but it's a 5. I don't think it's anything higher than a 5, in my
Mhm.
opinion. All right.
Yeah.
So that was our review on the live action Netflix adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And yeah, man, this is a great discussion.
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
I'm glad to have talked about this today. But anyhow, if you don't already follow us on at Cinema Wave Media on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Threads, as well as at _Culture Wave Media, where you can find us on Instagram, I recommend you do so. We got some cool content on there always, and keeps you in the loop of things if you guys enjoy our content. Let us know your thoughts on Avatar down below. I know that actually there's a lot of people that are not, they're liking the show. So if you
Yeah.
feel that way, let us know in the comments and let us know why, because we like to build a culture here.
Uh-huh.
All right, signing off. My name is Vinny Albano,
I'm Mark Acabino.
And I'm Michael Peniston.
and we'll see you guys next time.